She screamed my name from the balcony corridor again last week. And I ran, the way I have run to that child's voice for 6 years, the way my body runs before my mind has even heard the word. And I want to tell you about all the times she screamed my name, the whole long history of it, because I had the meaning of it wrong for 6 years, completely wrong. And I only learned the truth of what those screams were the last time she made one. And the truth turned my whole understanding of myself and of her inside out. I am writing this slowly, the way you write a thing you've only just understood and are still understanding as the words come. So forgive me if it circles, if it doubles back, if I tell you the end before the middle and the middle before I've earned it. That's how the truth came to me, all at once and out of order. 6 years rearranging themselves in an afternoon, and I can only give it to you the way it came to me, which was not in a neat line but in a wave. The whole of it arriving together and me sorting it ever since. So bear with the circling. The shape of the telling is the shape of the understanding, and the understanding came in a flood, and I'm still standing in it. My name is Tomas. I have been the assigned guard of the Princess Meilís since she was 4 years old, and I was a young man newly given my first real charge, and she is 10 now. And I am not young anymore, not in the ways that matter, because guarding a child for 6 years ages you in a particular way, wears grooves in you, makes you into something shaped entirely around one small person's safety. For 6 years my whole life has been her safety. And for 6 years I believed I understood the arrangement between us perfectly. I was the guard, she was the guarded, I protected her. She was protected. And when she screamed my name, which she did over the years, more than a child should ever have to, I ran to save her. Because that was what I was for, the running and the saving, the strong one rushing to the small one's cry. I had it backwards. That's what I have to tell you. For 6 years I had the whole thing backwards, and the having it backwards is not a small mistake. It is the kind of mistake that, when it finally corrects itself, takes your whole sense of who you've been and turns it over. And I am still, even now, even after, trying to stand upright in the new understanding of what those 6 years actually were. Let me tell it from the start. Let me tell you about the screams, all of them in order, because the order matters, because the pattern only reveals itself across all of them, and the pattern is the truth I missed. I've thought about whether to tell this at all, because it's hers as much as mine, the secret of what she is, and a secret like that, a child who can feel danger coming, is not a safe thing to put into the world, where there are always people who'd want to use such a gift, or fear it, or call it unnatural. So I've changed what I had to change, hidden what I had to hide, and I'll not tell you anything that could let the wrong person find the real child behind this telling. But the truth of what passed between a guard and his princess, the truth of who was really guarding whom, that I had to set down, because it's the most important thing I ever learned, and because there may be someone reading who is, like I was, loved and protected from a direction they've never thought to look, and who might, because of this, finally turn and see it. That's worth the telling. So I'll tell it carefully, the true shape of it, and trust you to take the lesson and leave the child her safety. The first time she screamed my name she was 4, and I had been her guard for only a few weeks, and I did not yet love her, because you do not love a charge in a few weeks. Love comes later. Love is built. I was simply doing my work, standing my post outside the nursery of a small princess in the palace of Vaildren, kingdom of Morwen, a young guard proud of his first real charge, and not yet anything more than that. And she screamed. From inside the nursery, a child screamed my name in it. She had learned my name fast. Children learn the names of the people near them faster than the people realize. Tomas. She screamed Tomas, and I went through that door faster than I have ever moved, sword half drawn, ready for whatever threatened a 4-year-old, ready to kill it, and I found nothing. A nursery. A small girl standing on her bed, pointing, frightened, at a corner of the room where there was nothing. Nothing at all, just shadow and a fallen toy. And I understood slowly, my heart still slamming, that the princess had been frightened by nothing, by a shadow, by a child's imagination monster in a dark corner, and had screamed for the guard, and the guard had come ready to kill, and there was nothing to kill, only a frightened 4-year-old and a fallen toy. I was gentle about it. I want you to know I was gentle even then, even before I loved her. I did not scold her for screaming over nothing. I checked the corner with great seriousness. I told her it was safe now. I set the fallen toy back in its place. I did the things you do to settle a frightened small child, and she settled, and I went back to my post, and I thought, a nervous child, an imaginative child, a child who'll scream over shadows. And I filed it that way. The first scream, filed as a false alarm, a child's fear of nothing. And that filing, that first wrong interpretation, became the lens I saw all the later screams through, and the lens was wrong, and I looked through the wrong lens for 6 years. The screams came over the years, more than you would think. Not constantly. She was not a hysterical child, not a child who screamed for attention. I want to be clear about that, because the truth of her depends on you understanding she was not a crier of wolf. But every so often, every few months, sometimes more, sometimes less, the Princess Maylis would scream my name, from wherever she was, the nursery, the gardens, the long galleries, and most often as she grew older from the balcony corridor, the high gallery that ran along the south face of the palace with its row of balconies looking down over the courtyards. She would scream Tomas, and I would run, and I would arrive ready for murder and find. And this is the thing, this is the pattern I misread. I would arrive and find no clear danger, sometimes nothing at all like the first time. Sometimes something small and explicable, a stranger in the corridor who turned out to have business there, a servant she didn't recognize, a noise, a shadow, a door that had banged. Never in 6 years did I arrive at one of her screams to find an obvious assassin with a raised blade, the clear danger a guard imagines. I always arrived to find the danger already gone, or never there, or so small and explained away that it seemed like nothing. And so I built, across the years, an understanding of the Princess Maylis as a fearful child, a child who saw danger where there was none, who screamed at shadows and strangers and banging doors, a nervous, anxious girl who needed her guard to come and reassure her that the world was safe. I loved her by then. The love had built, across the years, the fierce protective love of a guard for the child he's raised alongside. She was the great love of my life, that child. I'd have died for her 100 times over. But I loved her as you love a fearful thing, a thing that needs constant reassurance, and I came to her screams the way you go to comfort a child waking from nightmares, expecting not real danger but a frightened girl needing to be told it's all right. I was wrong. There was always something. That's the truth I missed for 6 years. There was always something real at the end of those screams. I just couldn't see it because I was looking for the wrong thing, looking for a danger to her, and the danger was never to her. The danger was to me, and a guard looking for a threat to his charge does not think to look for a threat to himself. And so I missed, 6 years running, what the child was actually screaming about. Let me tell you about the bond, before I tell you the truth, because you have to feel the bond to feel how the truth reshapes it. 6 years of guarding a child is a strange intimacy, the strangest I've known. You are always near her and never her equal, always responsible for her and never her family, the most constant presence in her daily life, and yet only a servant, only the guard, only furniture with a sword. And yet, a child doesn't see the hierarchy the way the adults do. To the Princess Maylis, across those years, I was not furniture. I was Tomas, the constant one, the one who was always there, the one who came when she screamed, and she gave me, across the years, a child's whole uncomplicated love, the love a small person gives the big person who keeps them safe, and I gave her back everything a guard is allowed to give and more. The fierce hidden tenderness of a man guarding a child he's come to love as his own. We had our things the way you do. She would tell me the small news of her small life, what she'd learned, what she'd dreamed, who'd been unkind to her in the careful, cruel way of court children, and I would listen always because listening was a thing I could give her that cost nothing and meant everything to a lonely royal child. She drew pictures and gave them to me, and I kept every one. I have them still, 6 years of a child's drawings, the early scribbles and the later careful ones, a whole childhood in pictures given to her guard. I keep them in order, the drawings by year, so that the whole arc of her childhood is there in paper. And on the bad nights I take them out and lay them in their rows, and it is like watching her grow up again. From the scribbling 4-year-old to the careful 10-year-old, a whole childhood I was lucky enough to stand beside. She worried about me, I noticed that, across the years, and thought it sweet and thought nothing more of it. She worried about me in a way that seemed beyond her years, asked if I was tired, if I was eating, if I was well, watched me with a careful attention that I read as a sweet child's care for her guard, and that was, I understand now, something else entirely, something I should have read and didn't. Because she was watching me. That's the thing I have to make you understand before the truth lands. The Princess Maylis, across all 6 years, was watching me, watching over me, with an attention I mistook for a child's affection, and the watching was the realest thing in our whole bond, and I never once understood what she was watching for, or why, or what she saw until the last scream, when it all came clear at once, and I learned that the child I thought I'd spent 6 years protecting had spent 6 years protecting me. Who I was to her, who she was to me, the loneliness on both sides that made the bond. I have to tell you about the loneliness, both of ours, because the bond grew in the soil of two lonelinesses, and you can't understand it without them. I was alone in the world when I came to guard her. No wife, no children, my family long gone, the way it is for many who come to the guard takes the ones with nothing else, the unattached, the men who can give their whole lives to a charge because they have no other life to give it to. I was one of those. I came to the Princess Maylis with nothing in my life but the guarding, no one waiting for me, no one to go home to, an empty man who poured himself into a charge because the charge was all he had. And the charge became, across the years, the whole of my heart. She filled the emptiness, the small princess became the child I'd never have, the family I'd never made, the someone to love that an empty man aches for, and I gave her a father's love almost, hidden under a guard's duty, because she was, in truth, the only person in the world I had to love. And she was lonely too. That's the thing that made it mutual, made it real. A royal child is a lonely thing, surrounded by people, served by dozens, and lonely, profoundly, because the people around her are servants and tutors and careful courtiers, not family, not friends, not anyone who loves her for herself rather than for her rank. Her parents loved her, I believe, but distantly in the managed way of royal parents, glimpsed and then gone. And so the Princess Maylis, surrounded and alone, gave her lonely child's whole heart to the one constant loving presence in her life, which was me, her guard, the one who was always there, the one who listened, the one who came when she screamed. We were each other's, in the way two lonely people become each other's, she the child I'd never have, I the constant love she didn't get from the distant rest of her world. Two lonelinesses met, filling each other. And out of that mutual filling grew the thing that made her guard me. She loved me because I was her one real love, and the love was so large that it became a gift, became the watchfulness, the gift that felt my danger, because love that large reaches out past itself, becomes protective, becomes a kind of power, and her love for me was large enough to become the thing that saved my life for 6 years. The loneliness made the love, and the love made the guarding. It all grew from two empty people finding each other across the gap of rank and age, and filling each other, and the filling becoming, in her, a fierce protective gift, and in me, the whole meaning of my life. The truth came out the last time she screamed my name, last week, and to tell it I have to tell you what was actually happening that day, and then go back and recolor all 6 years of screams in the light of it, the way the truth recolors everything behind it when it finally arrives. Last week there was a plot against me. Not against the princess, against me, Tomas the guard. I had made an enemy across my years of service, the way a guard does. I'll come to who and why, it matters less than the fact of it, And that enemy had arranged a quiet thing, an accident that wasn't meant to remove me. And the place it was meant to happen was the balcony corridor, the high south gallery, where a man might fall from a balcony and it might look like a fall, and where I walked every day on my rounds at a predictable hour, because a guard's life is made of predictable hours, and a predictable hour is exactly what such a plot needs. And the Princess Meilys knew. That's the thing. She knew before it happened that there was danger to me in the balcony corridor, and she did the thing she had done for 6 years, the thing I had misread for 6 years. She screamed my name from the balcony corridor. Tomas, she screamed, and I ran, the way I always ran, my body moving before my mind. 6 years of running to that voice. And I ran toward the balcony corridor expecting to find the princess in danger and needing saving. And instead I ran into the place where the danger to me was. And the danger was sprung early, sprung by my running. Sprung wrong because I came faster and from a different direction than the plot expected, because the scream had changed the timing. And in the chaos of it, the thing meant to kill me failed, and the man behind it was caught, because the princess's scream had brought not just me but the commotion of me, the noise, the attention, the other guards drawn by a princess screaming. And a quiet accident that cannot happen in noise and attention and witnesses, and so the plot broke because she screamed. She screamed to save me. Do you understand? She screamed my name to bring me toward the danger so that the danger would be witnessed and fail. Or I've turned it over 100 times to bring the noise and the eyes that would make a quiet murder impossible, or simply because screaming my name was the only thing a 10-year-old could do when she knew her guard was about to be killed and couldn't say so plainly. She screamed to save me. And I ran to the scream thinking I was saving her, and arrived to save her and found instead that she had saved me, that the whole thing was inside out, that the protected had protected the protector. And I stood in the balcony corridor with the broken plot around me and the princess looking at me with a face I finally understood, and the 6 years turned over. The day of the broken plot in full, because it's where the truth broke open. I gave you the broken plot quickly. Let me give it to you fully, the day of it, because it's where 6 years of misunderstanding finally cracked, and it deserves to be felt slow. It was an ordinary day until it wasn't, the way the days that change you always are. I was walking my rounds, the usual rounds, the predictable hours, and I was due, at a certain time, to walk the balcony corridor, the high south gallery, the way I did every day at that hour, predictable as sunrise, which is exactly the predictability a patient plot needs. And the Chamberlain's men were waiting. I learned all this after, in the unraveling, waiting in the balcony corridor for the guard who came every day at the same hour, ready to make an accident, a fall, a quiet death dressed as mischance. And the princess screamed my name, before I reached the corridor. From the corridor she'd gone there, I learned, drawn by her gift, by the cold wrong feeling that something waited there for me, and she'd gone toward it instead of away. A 10-year-old walking toward the danger to her guard because warning me meant being near it. And she'd screamed my name, Tomas, loud, terrified, and I'd run, but here's the thing. Here's what broke the plot. I ran faster than the predictable hour, ran early, ran from a different direction. Because a scream changes everything about how a guard moves. A scream means run now. Run hard, run straight. And so I came into the balcony corridor not at my predictable ambling round-hour pace from the predictable direction but fast and early and wrong-angled and loud. And the plotters, set for the predictable guard, were caught wrong-footed by the unpredictable one. And in the scramble of it, the timing ruined. Me coming fast and the princess there screaming and other guards now running too, drawn by a princess's scream. The quiet accident became impossible, became a scene. A commotion, witnesses, and a quiet murder cannot survive witnesses. And the plot broke, the men were taken, and I stood in the balcony corridor alive who should by every plan have been dead. And the princess stood there having saved me. And the truth began, in that moment, to break open. because I looked at her, standing in the corridor, and I saw, finally, after 6 years, that she wasn't frightened the way a saved child is frightened. She was frightened the way a guardian is frightened. Frightened for me, watching me, checking me for harm, her eyes going over me to see if I was hurt. The way I had looked over her 1,000 times, the protector's look, the is my charge unharmed look, and she was giving it to me. A 10-year-old giving her guard the protector's once over. And it was so wrong for my whole understanding, so exactly the reversal of everything, that the truth cracked open right there, in the corridor with the broken plot around us. And I understood, all at once, in a wave that nearly took my legs, that she had not been screaming to be saved. She had been screaming to save me, that she was looking at me with a guardian's eyes because she was my guardian, had been my guardian for 6 years. And I had never known. Because here is what I understood standing there, it had always been this. Every scream, all 6 years. The Princess Maylies had a gift. I don't know what else to call it, a sensitivity, a watchfulness, some quality of attention that let her feel danger coming the way some people feel rain coming in the body before the sky shows it. And what she felt, what she had always felt, was danger to me. Not to herself, to me. Across 6 years, her gift had warned her, again and again, when her guard was in danger, when a threat was near me, and she had done the only thing she could do with the warning, which was scream my name, bring me to her. Bring me away from wherever the danger was or toward where the witnesses were. Interrupt the pattern. Break the timing. Save me. And I had come every time thinking she was the one in danger and found no danger to her. Because there was no danger to her. The danger was always to me. And her screaming me to her side was her pulling me out of it, again and again, for 6 years. And I never knew. The first scream, the 4-year-old pointing at nothing in the corner, I'd filed it as a child's fear of shadows. But what if, I've thought about this until my head aches, what if even then, even at 4, the gift was working? What if she'd felt something, some danger near me that day, and screamed me into the nursery and away from it? And the nothing in the corner was just a 4-year-old's only way of explaining a feeling she had no words for. I'll never know about that first one. But the pattern, once I saw it, fit them all. Every scream across 6 years, every time I'd arrived to find no danger to her, every false alarm I'd filed as a nervous child's fear. What if none of them were false? What if every one was real, was a danger to me that her gift had felt and her scream had pulled me clear of? And the reason I never found a danger to her was that there had never been one. The danger was always behind me, at my back, in the place I'd just left, in the timing I'd just broken by running to her. I cannot prove it for every scream. Some of them surely were just a child frightened of shadows. She was a child, not only a gift. But enough of them, too many of them, fit the pattern, and the pattern is unmistakable once you see it. The Princess Maylie spent 6 years sensing danger to her guard and screaming him to safety, and the guard spent 6 years thinking he was saving a fearful child. And the whole bond, the whole 6 years, was the opposite of what I thought. Was a small girl guarding a grown man who never knew he was being guarded. The SCREAMS, remembered specific ones across the years, now recolored. I want to go back through specific screams, the ones I remember most clearly, and tell them to you twice over, the way I understood them then, and the way I understand them now. Because the doubling is the only way to make you feel what it was to have 6 years recolor themselves at once. There was the one when she was 5, in the long gallery. She'd been walking the gallery with her women, and I'd been a little ahead, scouting the way as I did. And she screamed Tomas, sudden and sharp, and I spun and ran back to her, and found her women fussing around her and no danger anywhere. And she pointed vaguely and said there'd been a strange man, and no one else had seen a strange man, and the women clucked about a fanciful child. And I checked the gallery and found nothing and soothed her, and we went on. Then I filed it, another false alarm, the fanciful princess. Now, I remember that not a minute before she screamed, I had been about to walk ahead, alone, down a side passage off the gallery to check it, and her scream had stopped me, turned me back to her, kept me from going down that passage alone. And I never checked the passage because I went to her instead. I'll never know what was in the passage. But I know now that her scream turned me from it, and that the pattern says there was something in it, something for me, and that a 5-year-old scream pulled me back from a side passage I was about to walk into alone, and I called it fancifulness for 6 years. There was the one when she was 7, in the gardens, the worst one, the one that frightened me most at the time. She'd screamed my name with a real terror in it, a terror I'd never heard before, and I'd run flat out across the gardens to her, and found her white and shaking and pointing at the high garden wall, and there'd been nothing on the wall, nothing, and I'd held her while she shook and thought my heart would break for the fearful child seeing terrors on empty walls. Now, I learned, after asking the careful questions the truth made me ask, that on that day a man had been taken on that very garden wall some hours later, a man who should not have been there, near where I walked my rounds with a crossbow, and the official story was that he'd been after a deer or a bird and strayed, and no one connected him to me, and I never knew until I went looking after the truth came out. A man with a crossbow on the wall the princess screamed at, hours before he was taken. She'd seen him, felt him before he was even in position, and screamed me to her and away from the wall, and I'd held her shaking and thought her fanciful, and there'd been a man with a crossbow for me on the wall she pointed at. I go cold every time I think of it. 7 years old, a crossbow on the wall, and I comforted her for her imagination. There was the one when she was 9, the quiet one, the one that didn't even sound like the others. She hadn't screamed exactly that time. She'd called my name oddly, urgently but low, and asked me to stay with her, just stay. She didn't feel well, and I'd stayed the whole evening, sat with her while she said she felt unwell, and she'd seemed well enough, and I'd thought she just wanted company, a lonely child wanting her guard near. Now, I know that was the evening a thing was meant to happen to me elsewhere in the palace, a thing that needed me to be where I always was at that hour, alone on my usual round. And I wasn't, because the princess had kept me with her all evening, said she felt unwell, kept me from my round, kept me from the place the thing was meant to happen, and the thing never happened because I never went, and the plotters waited and I never came, and the moment passed. She didn't scream that time. She was cleverer that time, older, had learned that keeping me with her worked as well as screaming, that the danger to me could be undone by simply not letting me go to it. A 9-year-old learning, refining her guardianship, finding quieter ways to keep her guard alive. And I thought she wanted company. She was saving my life with the only tools a 9-year-old has, a claimed illness, a request to stay. And I sat with her thinking I was indulging a lonely child, and she was holding me out of the path of a thing that would have killed me. The recoloring of 6 years is a strange and painful thing, and I have to tell you how it felt, because it's the heart of what I learned. I had built my whole self on being her protector. That was who I was for 6 years, Tomas, the guard, the one who kept the princess safe, the strong one, the shield. My entire identity, my entire sense of my own worth was built on protecting her. And the truth turned it inside out. I had not been protecting her, or not only, not mainly. She had been protecting me, across all those years, with her gift and her screams, and the strong shield had been, all along, the one being shielded by the small girl he thought he was guarding. And there is a strange grief in that, a strange unmaking, to learn that the role you built your whole self on was reversed, that you were not the protector you thought you were, that the child you condescended to comfort as a fearful thing had been, in truth, your guardian. But it is not only grief. That's the thing I've come to, turning it over. Because under the unmaking is something almost unbearably moving. That this child, this small person, had loved me enough, watched over me enough to spend her own gift, her own fear, her own screams on my safety for 6 years, asking nothing, explaining nothing, just screaming my name into danger after danger to pull me clear. A small girl quietly guarding her guard out of a love so large and so hidden that I never even saw it, mistook it for a nervous child's fear, condescended to it, comforted it. When it was the fiercest protection I have ever been given, she guarded me better than I guarded her. She guarded me for 6 years and I never knew, and the not knowing doesn't lessen it. The guarding was real whether I knew it or not. The small girl kept me alive across 6 years of dangers I never even saw. And the love that did that is the largest love anyone has ever given me. And I spent 6 years not seeing it. And that is the grief and the wonder both, all tangled. The way the deepest things always come tangled. What it is to recolor a life, the strange grief and wonder of it. Each of these, when it recolored, was its own small earthquake, and together they were a whole world remade, and I have to tell you what that's like, the experience of it, because it's the strangest thing I've lived. You think you know your past. You think the things that happened are settled, fixed, their meanings determined, and then a truth arrives that recolors them, and you learn that the past isn't fixed at all, that the same events can mean entirely different things depending on a truth you didn't have, and that the arrival of the truth doesn't change what happened but changes everything about what it meant, retroactively, all at once, the whole past shifting under you like the deck of a ship. I lived 6 years one way as the protector of a fearful child, and then in an afternoon I learned I'd lived them another way entirely, as the protected of a fierce small guardian. And the 6 years didn't change. Every event was exactly as it had been, and yet every event meant the opposite of what I'd thought, and I had to relive all of them, one by one in the new meaning, and the reliving was its own 6 years almost, compressed into the weeks since the truth came out. The whole of my time with her, replayed in the true key. And it is grief and wonder, tangled always both. Grief because I missed it, 6 years of the largest love I've known, and I missed it, condescended to it, never honored it, never knew how loved I was, and that missing is a loss I can't get back. The 6 years I could have spent knowing and instead spent misunderstanding. But wonder too, more than grief in the end, because the love was real the whole time whether I saw it or not. The guarding happened whether I knew it or not. I was loved and protected for 6 years by a small fierce guardian, and now I know it, and the knowing, late as it is the sweetest thing I own. The past recolored is still grief for the years of not seeing. But it's wonder, too, for the love that was there all along, flowing toward me from the direction I never looked. And the wonder, in the end, is larger than the grief, because the love was larger than my blindness. The love saved me whether I saw it or not, and a love that saves you whether you see it or not is the realest love there is. I have to tell you about who wanted me dead, and why, because it's part of the truth and because it deepens what she did. I had made an enemy of a man of the court, a chamberlain, a powerful one, who I had crossed years before in the only way that matters at court, by seeing something I shouldn't have seen. In my guarding, in my constant watchful presence, I had once witnessed this man doing a thing that would have ruined him, a corruption, a theft from the crown. The details don't matter. And I had reported it, the way a loyal guard does, and the man had been clever enough to escape the consequence but not clever enough to escape knowing that I was the one who'd seen and told. And so he had nursed it, the way powerful men nurse such things, for years, and had finally, this season, moved to remove me. Quietly, an accident in a balcony corridor. The witness silenced years after the witnessing, cold and patient and almost successful. And the princess, here is the thing that deepens it. The princess could not have known any of that. She was a child. She knew nothing of chamberlains and corruptions and old grudges. She did not know why I was in danger, did not know the politics, the plot, the patient enemy. She only knew with her gift that I was in danger that day in the balcony corridor, and she screamed. Her protection of me was not strategic, was not informed, was not the clever intervention of someone who understood the threat. It was purer than that and somehow larger for being purer. She felt danger to the person she loved, and she acted with the only power she had, a scream, not understanding the danger at all, just knowing it was there and that screaming my name might pull me clear. A child's pure protective love acting blind against a danger she couldn't comprehend for 6 years and saving me again and again without ever understanding what she was saving me from. That she did it blind makes it more, not less. She didn't guard me because she understood the threats. She guarded me because she loved me, and the love itself was the gift. The love itself felt the danger and screamed, and I have never in my life been loved like that, blindly and fiercely and effectively, by a small person who asked nothing and saved everything. The Chamberlain, the enemy, and what became of him, since the danger was real. I should finish the matter of the Chamberlain, the man who wanted me dead, because the danger to me was real and ongoing, and you should know how it ended, and because it deepens what the princess saved me from. He was caught that day in the balcony corridor, his men taken, and the men, under questioning, gave him up, the way hired men always give up the one who hired them. And so the Chamberlain who'd patiently plotted my death was exposed at last, years after the witnessing that had made him my enemy. And here is the bitter justice of it. The thing he'd tried to silence me for, the old corruption I'd witnessed and reported, came out again in the unraveling fuller now. And this time he did not escape it. This time the murder plot proved the corruption. A man who will kill to silence a witness is plainly a man with something to hide. And so his attempt to bury his old crime by burying me only dug the crime up larger. And he fell completely, lost everything. The patient enemy undone by his own patience, by the very plot meant to save him. And he fell because of a child's scream. That's the thing to hold. The Chamberlain's careful, patient, years-long plot, the corruption hidden and the witness marked and the quiet accident arranged, all of it, the whole edifice of a powerful man's careful evil, brought down by a 10-year-old screaming a guard's name in a corridor. Because she screamed, I lived. Because I lived and the plot broke, the men were taken. Because the men were taken, the Chamberlain fell. Because the Chamberlain fell, the old corruption came fully to light and was answered at last. A child's scream toppled a powerful man's years of careful evil. The small, fierce guardian didn't just save her guard, she brought down, with one scream, the corrupt, powerful man her guard had failed to bring down years before with a proper report. She finished the justice I'd started and lost. A 10-year-old's love for her guard accomplished what the whole machinery of the court had let slip, the fall of a corrupt Chamberlain. They'll never know, the court, that a child did it, that a princess's scream brought down a Chamberlain. They'll credit the investigation, the guards, the process. I know it was her. One scream. The largest love doing the largest justice and no one knowing but me. After the plot broke, after the man was caught and taken, after the balcony corridor was cleared and the danger passed, I did a thing I had never done in 6 years. I sat down with the Princess Melis properly and I asked her. I asked her about the screams. I should not have, by the rules of my place. A guard does not sit a princess down and question her, even gently, even one he loves. But I had to know, and she was the only one who could tell me, and so I knelt in front of her, the child I'd guarded for 6 years, and I asked her, careful and quiet, why she screamed my name. Why she'd always screamed my name. What she felt when she screamed it. And she looked at me, and her face, I'll never forget her face, it had a kind of relief in it. The relief of a child who has been carrying a thing alone for a long time and is finally being asked about it. And she told me, in a child's simple words, the truth I'd spent 6 years missing. She told me she could feel when I was in danger. That's how she said it. I can feel when something bad is going to happen to you, Tomas. Just to you. Not to me, to you. She told me she'd felt it since she was small, since the very beginning, that she got a feeling, a cold, wrong feeling, when danger was near me, and that she didn't know how to say it, didn't have the words, was a child and couldn't explain a feeling like that to grown-ups who just think she was being fearful. And so she'd done the only thing she could think of, which was scream my name, bring me to her, get me away from wherever the bad feeling was pointing. She'd been doing it for 6 years. She'd known every time that she wasn't in danger that I was, and she'd screamed anyway, screamed to pull me clear. and let me think I was saving her because she didn't know how to tell me the truth, and because, she said, in the most heartbreaking part of it, because if I knew she was screaming to save me and not to be saved, I might not come, might tell her not to be silly, might stop running to her screams, and then she couldn't save me anymore. So she let me think I was the protector. She let me condescend to her, comfort her, file her as fearful, for 6 years, because letting me misunderstand was the price of being allowed to keep guarding me. And she paid that price. A small girl letting herself be misunderstood for 6 years so that she could go on quietly saving the guard she loved. I broke hearing that. I'm not ashamed to tell you I broke, knelt in front of that child and wept, because the size of it was too much, the size of what she'd done and carried and hidden, the 6 years of being misunderstood on purpose so she could keep me alive. And she, 10 years old, she comforted me, put her small hand on my head while her guard wept, the protector comforting the protected one last time, or the first time, depending how you count, depending on who was ever really protecting whom. The thing she carried alone, a child holding a guardian's burden. I have to dwell on one thing the truth revealed, because it's the part that breaks me most. That she carried it alone, for 6 years, the whole weight of guarding me, with no one to share it, a child holding a guardian's burden in total solitude. Think what it was for her. A small child, 4, 5, 6 years old, feeling danger to the person she loved most, again and again, and not being able to tell anyone, not being believed, not having the words, carrying the terrible knowledge that her guard was in danger and the terrible responsibility of being the only one who could save him, alone for years. That's a crushing weight for an adult. For a child it should have been unbearable. And she bore it silently for 6 years, screaming my name when she had to, and letting everyone think her fanciful and fearful, carrying alone the knowledge that she was the only thing standing between her beloved guard and death, never able to share the burden, never able to explain, never thanked because no one knew, a small child holding a guardian's whole lonely weight in secret because she loved me, and there was no one else to keep me safe. That's what undoes me more than anything. Not that she saved me, the saving is wonder, but that she carried it alone, the weight of it for 6 years, a child bearing a guardian's solitary burden in silence, is grief almost too large to hold. I should have been carrying her, lightening her child's load, and instead she was carrying me. The heaviest load there is, the life of someone you love, and carrying it alone in secret, misunderstood for 6 years. And when I finally knelt and asked her and she finally got to tell someone, the relief in her face, I told you about the relief. The relief was the relief of a child finally setting down. For one moment, a weight she'd carried alone too long, finally being seen, finally being helped, finally not being the only one who knew. The greatest gift I gave her in 6 years, I think, was not any protection of mine. It was that afternoon, kneeling, asking, finally understanding, finally letting her not be alone in it anymore, finally taking up my half of the guarding so she didn't have to carry the whole weight by herself. That's what we have now, the guarding each other, and what it means most for her is that she's not alone in it anymore, not the lonely secret guardian carrying her guard's life by herself, but one of two, sharing the weight, seen, helped, known. I couldn't give her back the 6 years she carried it alone. But I can make sure she never carries it alone again. And that, I think, is the truest protection I've ever given her, the only guarding of mine that ever matched hers. To share the weight she bore alone for 6 years, so that she's not the lonely small guardian anymore, but my partner in it, both of us watching, both of us guarding, neither of us alone. I have to tell you what the bond became after, because the truth could have broken it, and instead it remade it. And the remaking is the thing I most want you to have. It would have been easy after for the bond to curdle, for me to feel unmanned by it, shamed, the guard who was guarded by a child, the protector exposed as the protected. Some men would have felt that. Some men would have pulled away from her, unable to bear being the one who'd been saved, the role reversal too much for their pride. And I felt the temptation of it, the sting of it, the unmaking of my whole protector's identity. But I did not let it curdle, because I understood, kneeling there, that to pull away from her now, to let my pride spoil the bond, would be to waste the love she'd spent 6 years giving me, would be to value my own self-image over the realest love I'd ever been given, and I would not do that. I would not be that small. So instead the bond remade itself into something truer than it had been. We guard each other now. That's what it became. I told her I made myself tell her, though it cost my pride. I told her that I knew now what she'd been doing, and that it was the bravest and most loving thing anyone had ever done for me, and that I was honored past words to have been guarded by her, and that I would never again mistake her screams for a fearful child's fear, would always know them now for what they were, warnings, gifts, a small guardian's love. And I told her that we would guard each other now, openly, both ways, that I would go on protecting her from the dangers I could see, and she would go on warning me of the dangers only she could feel, and that this, two people guarding each other, each with the gift they had, was a better thing than what we'd had, was the truth our 6 years had been building toward, the protector and the protected revealed as two protectors, each saving the other in the way only they could. And she liked that. Her face when I said we'd guard each other now, openly. Her face was the face of a child who's finally been seen, finally been understood, finally allowed to be what she'd secretly been all along. My guardian, openly now acknowledged, no longer hidden behind a fearful child's mask. We guard each other now. It's the truest arrangement I've ever been part of. The new bond deepened, what guarding each other actually means day to day. I told you we guard each other now, and I want to give that more than a line, because it's the resolution of the whole thing and it's lovely in its details. It's changed how we are together, the openness of it. For 6 years there was a thing between us we didn't name, her guarding, my not seeing, and now it's named, now it's open, and the openness has made the bond easy in a way it never was. She tells me now plainly, when she feels something, Tomas, be careful today. I have the feeling and I listen, and I'm careful, and twice it's saved me since, and there's no more pretending, no more her screaming and me misunderstanding, just two guardians being honest about the dangers they sense. And I tell her plainly the dangers I see, the ordinary guard's eye dangers, the strangers and the threats and the things a sword answers, and she listens. And so we share both kinds of guarding, hers and mine, the gift and the sword, the felt danger and the seen danger. And between us we cover what neither could cover alone. It's the best partnership I've ever been part of. A grown guard and a 10-year-old, and it's the truest partnership of my life. And there's a tenderness in it now that there wasn't, or that was hidden before. Because we both know now how much we love each other. It's not hidden anymore. Not under duty and rank and misunderstanding. It's open. We've said it in our ways the afternoon I knelt and wept, and she put her hand on my head. We crossed into knowing openly that we are each other's, that she is the child I'll never have and I am the constant love she doesn't get from the distant rest. That two lonely people found each other and became each other's family across the gap of rank and age. We don't say it in words mostly. We're not a guard and a princess who can say such things plainly. The world doesn't allow it. But it's known between us, openly known, and the knowing has made everything warmer, easier, truer, and I am, for the first time in my empty life, not empty, because I know I'm loved, know it openly, by the small fierce guardian who spent 6 years loving me in secret and now loves me in the open. And being known to be loved after a life of emptiness is the warmest thing there is. She's still screaming my name. That's the strange, sweet truth of how it is now. She still screams it every so often when her gift feels danger to me, but now I know what it means, and the knowing changes everything about how I answer it. Now when she screams Tomas from the balcony corridor or the gardens or wherever she is, I don't run toward her thinking she's in danger. I run knowing that I am, that her gift has felt a threat to me and she's pulling me clear. And so I run toward her scream, but watchfully, ready not for a danger to her but for a danger to me, looking behind me, around me, for the threat she's felt. And twice now since the truth came out, That knowing has saved me again. Twice I've run to her scream watching my own back the way I never used to and caught a danger I'd have missed. Because now I know her scream means look out, Tomas. Not save me, Tomas. And the changed understanding has turned her gift from a thing that saved me by accident into a thing that saves me on purpose. Both of us knowing now what we're doing. Both of us guarding openly, the way we should have all along. We are a strange pair of guardians, the princess and I. A grown man and a 10-year-old, each watching for the other's danger, each with the protection only they can give my sword and my watchfulness for the dangers of the world, her gift and her scream for the dangers that come for me. The court doesn't know. The court sees only a guard and his charge, the ordinary arrangement, the strong man protecting the small princess. They don't know that the small princess has been protecting the strong man for 6 years, that she guards me as fiercely as I guard her, that when she screams my name, she is not a child in danger but a guardian giving warning. It's our secret, the truth of our bond, hidden under the ordinary seeming arrangement. And I've come to love that it's hidden, love that the world sees a fearful child and a strong guard and has it exactly backwards. The way I had it backwards for 6 years, because the truth is ours, the princess's and mine, the secret of who really guards whom, and we keep it, and we guard each other, and the world never knows. What I'd have missed, the road not taken, the pride I almost let win. I want to confess one last thing, because a true telling holds the teller's worst near failure, and mine was a near thing, and you should know how close I came to ruining it. When the truth first broke, in the corridor in the days after, before I knelt and asked her, before I chose the openness, there was a window where my pride nearly won, where the shame of being the guarded not the guarding nearly made me pull away from her. I felt it, the sting, the unmanning. I am a guard, my whole worth is in protecting, and to learn I'd been protected by a child was, to my pride, a kind of humiliation, a reversal that made my whole identity feel like a lie. And there was a version of me in those first days that wanted to bury the truth, to not ask her, to go back to pretending I was the protector, to protect my pride by refusing the truth, or worse, that wanted to pull back from her, to put distance there, because being near her now meant being near the proof that I was the protected one, and my pride could barely stand it. I almost did it. I almost let my pride pull me from the largest love of my life to protect my own self-image. And the thing that stopped me, I'll tell you, because it's the lesson under the lesson. The thing that stopped me was understanding that pulling away to protect my pride would be exactly the opposite of love, would be valuing my own self-image over the child who'd loved me enough to guard me for 6 years, would be the most selfish thing I could do, and that a man who'd let his pride spoil a love like that wasn't worth the love in the first place. So I swallowed the pride. I knelt instead of pulling away. I chose the love over the self-image, the truth over the pride, and it was the best choice I ever made. And I nearly didn't make it, and that's the warning I'd leave alongside the rest. When a truth reverses you, when you learn you were the protected and not the protector, the weak and not the strong, the receiver and not the giver, your pride will want to flee it, to bury it, to protect your old self-image at the cost of the love that revealed the truth. Don't let it. The pride is smaller than the love. Swallow the pride, kneel to the truth, choose the love. I almost didn't, and I'd have lost everything. And the only wise thing I did in the whole 6 years was, at the very end, to let the love be larger than my pride, and kneel and ask and be remade. The night I counted them, sitting alone, adding up 6 years of being saved. There was a night after all of it when I sat alone with her drawings, the 6 years of pictures she'd given me, that I'd kept, and I tried to count the screams, all of them, across 6 years, and I want to tell you about that night, because it's when the full size of what she'd done finally landed. I laid the drawings out, the whole childhood of them, the early scribbles to the careful later ones, and I tried to remember every time she'd screamed my name or called me oddly or kept me with her. And I counted, and I lost count and counted again, and the number I won't give it because I'm not sure of it, but it was many, far more than I'd ever realized, dozens across 6 years. Dozens of times she'd reached out with her gift and pulled me clear of something. And I sat there in the lamplight with a dead child's worth of drawings. No, a living child's. A living, fierce, small guardian's worth of drawings. And I understood that I was alive that night only because of her. That the man sitting in the lamplight counting should have died half a dozen times or more across 6 years and hadn't, because a small girl kept screaming his name, and that every ordinary day I'd lived since I was first assigned to her was a day she'd given me, a day bought with her gift and her scream and her lonely secret vigilance. Every day. That's what landed that night with the drawings. Not just the dramatic saves, the crossbow on the wall, the broken plot, but every ordinary day after every save, every quiet morning and dull afternoon and peaceful evening of the years since, all of them were days she'd given me. Days I only had because she'd saved me to have them. Days that wouldn't have existed without a small girl's love reaching out to pull me clear. I owe her my whole life, not as a figure of speech but as a plain accounting, the actual days of it, the actual breathing years, given to me by a child who guarded me in secret. And I sat in the lamplight that night and wept again, the way I'd wept kneeling in front of her, because the size of it, laid out in drawings and counted up, was more than a heart can hold. The plain fact that I am alive because a lonely child loved me enough to spend her strange gift saving me for 6 years, and that every day I have left is hers, given by her. A gift from the small, fierce guardian who screamed my name across 6 years to keep me in the world. I'm an older man now, or feel it, worn into the shape of guarding one child for 6 years and now of being guarded by her in turn. And I've thought a great deal about what it all means, and I'll leave you with what I've come to. We are so sure, most of us, that we know the shape of our relationships, who's strong and who's weak, who protects and who's protected, who gives and who receives. And we're so often wrong. I was wrong for 6 years about the most important bond in my life, had the whole direction of it backwards, thought I was the giver when I was the receiver, the protector when I was the protected, and the being wrong didn't lessen the love. The love flowed just as strong in the direction I couldn't see, but it meant I didn't see it, didn't honor it, didn't know how loved I was for 6 years. And I think most of us are like that, most of the time, loved in directions we can't see, protected by people we think we're protecting, guarded by the very ones we condescend to as weak, and never knowing it, never seeing the love that flows toward us from the places we're not looking. The Princess Maylies taught me to look. Taught me that the small and the weak seeming and the ones we think we're protecting may be, in truth, our fiercest guardians, watching over us with a love we mistake for need, screaming our names to save us while we think we're saving them. So look, that's the thing I'd leave you with. Look at the people you think you're protecting, the ones you think are weak, the ones whose fear you comfort and whose need you tend. Look again, and ask whether they might be guarding you in some way you can't see, with some gift you've mistaken for weakness, with some love you've mistaken for dependence. Because they might be. Mine was. For 6 years, the small, fearful child I thought I was protecting was my guardian, and I never knew, and the not knowing nearly cost me the chance to honor the largest love of my life. Don't let it cost you. Look at who's really guarding whom. You may be loved and protected and watched over from exactly the direction you've never thought to look, by exactly the person you thought needed you, and the seeing of it, the finally seeing of it, is the sweetest and most humbling thing I know. She screamed my name again last week from the balcony corridor. For 6 years I ran to that scream thinking I was the answer to a child's fear. Now I run to it knowing I am the one being saved, that a small fierce guardian is pulling me clear of a danger I cannot see, that the realest love of my life is screaming my name to keep me alive. I run to it still. I'll always run to it. But I run now knowing the truth, that when the Princess Maylies screams Tomas, it does not mean save me. It means I'm saving you. It always meant that. It took me 6 years and a broken plot and a kneeling confession to understand it, but I understand it now, and I'll never mistake it again. The sound of a small guardian screaming her guard to safety, the largest love I've ever known, calling my name across 6 years to keep me alive. Set down by Tomas, guard of the Princess Maylis, kingdom of Morwen, who thought for 6 years that he was the protector, and learned he was the protected, and his grateful past words to have been so guarded and so loved by the small, fierce guardian who screamed his name to keep him alive.